Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. Today is Monday, December the 13th, 2021, and I am Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach, and I am here to discuss a really strong 9-game NBA slate for this evening. Great weekend at DFS Coach Talk. Fantastic job by our NFL guys who were on it all weekend. So shout out to that whole team here at Coach Talk. Also, we had an awesome debut yesterday of Omaha Joe's NBA podcast, which was outstanding as well. So we're off to a great start already on this Monday, coming off our good Sunday action. Today's going to be a terrific day. Again, 9-game main slate. I love the big slate, so this is right up my alley. Some really good matchups, some interesting high totals and some low totals as well. And also Monday Night Football coming up tonight. So our NFL guys will also be back for that. So a very busy Monday. We're looking forward to all kinds of things coming down the stretch here before Christmas. We have a 12 days of Christmas giveaway and discount that will be added to our stream and to our website here today. So keep an eye out for that announcement. We've also got a big $50 ticket giveaway for a Christmas Day event tournament as well. So all kinds of news coming down the pike. If you haven't subscribed already and you're watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button, the thumbs up. Give us a little comment. Tell us if you like the pod, any suggestions, any questions. We love that input and love the banter back and forth. So we would love to have you make a comment there. If you're listening to us audio-wise, wherever podcasts can be heard, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Podbean, Stitcher, you name it, we're there. Just take a second, give us a 5-star rating and a little comment. If you do those two things, you qualify for our monthly drawing at the end of each month for a full access free week of DFS Coach Talk. So jump in that as well. All right, let's dive into this slate. We've got a lot of action to talk about, some great matchups. And I'll tell you what, I mean, the NBA is always crazy as far as building lineups and getting your, rotations figured out and exactly how you want to get everything going for the night. And then there's always some news that drops right towards the end that shuffles things around for you. But I can't remember a stretch of time, more than these last couple of weeks as far as late changes, COVID protocol stuff, injuries, rest. I mean, it's been amazing how much action there is late on the waiver wires and news gods and all these other things coming out, right at the last minute. So what I'd recommend really, we tell our members the same thing. Get your lineups, dummy lineups set in your contest. Pick those out either the night before or the morning of. So this way, you know which contest you're in. And you got that all set. So that's one thing off the list. Check out the podcast, go through that with us. And then what you want to do is update those lineups a little bit if you can from listening to the podcast. So at least, that lineup isn't going to have to majorly change. You may change half of it, but that's a lot easier. Then join us in Discord throughout the afternoon or toward the end of your workday, because that's where all the information comes through. As soon as it posts, we're adjusting, we're discussing in Discord what this means, what the usage looks like now with whoever it is off the court, and how's it going to affect the other team from a defensive standpoint, on and on. So there are a lot of pivots, if you will, that take place up until lock. And then as a member, you'll get 25 minutes before lock, you're going to get a Draftkings clipboard, which will give you 5 key players to use as your core, and then several other players that you can utilize to fill in that lineup. And then you get a full FanDuel cash and GPP lineup. Same thing for Yahoo. So It gives you a chance in that last 20, 25 minutes. And sometimes it's 10, 15 minutes. If major news breaks right in that last 30 minutes, we have to read and react quickly and make those changes, because those are big advantages. And one last point I wanted to make: if you're making those last minute changes and you're not sure what you want to do, flip that guy into that spot where you can rotate him out. That utility spot on DraftKings, for example, where it's a later start game and you can make some changes, because all the games don't start at the same lock time. Usually there's only maybe a couple. So just one thing that I do a lot, because late swap has become a necessity. I mean, the old days of plug my roster in, lock, set, and now I can leave for the night and not even pay attention to it. Those days are gone. I mean, there were times where some of the sites didn't even have late swap, but now all of the major sites do. And often that becomes a key part in our strategy. And it should be for you as well, because value opens, big names are out. So you got to follow that. Let us do the majority of the work for you. I mean, if you take the time at work, put the earbuds in, whatever, listen to the podcast, let us do all the work up until we post. Check that out. Go ahead and set those lineups, and then we'll follow through for you in Discord, and we'll post at everyone so everybody sees it if we're making any lineup changes. Okay, terrific. 9 games. We're going to go right at this. No breaks, no plugging anything. We're just going to go through all 9 games. So if you want to join us, go to dfscoachtalk.com. Very simple. The memberships are there. You can get a 3-day for as little as $10, 5-day for $19, and there's a lot of other options as well. All right, my friends. Monday, December the 13th, the first game on the slate. It is the Sacramento Kings, Toronto Raptors, 7 p.m. Toronto -5. It's a 220.5 total. Real nice total. 107.75 implied for Sacramento, 112.75 for Toronto. Sacramento comes into the game 11-16, Toronto at 12-14. So disappointing for both sides. Injury: Sacramento, Richaun Holmes out. And here are the 5 guys out for Toronto: Achua, Anunoby, Birch, Dragic, and Johnson. So a lot of injuries on both sides of the slate for this game. Well, I mean for the Toronto side, but an important one in Holmes on the other side. And then statistically, we're looking at pace, which Sacramento is 3rd. Toronto is 25th. So huge pace up game for Sacramento, and they are playing much faster with Gentry. And that's why the 220.5 total. I know Toronto has the 112 side of it and Sacramento has the 107, but I think for DFS purposes, it might be more advantageous to look at the Sacramento side, just because, I think this just is a nice matchup for them. But from the Toronto side, it is a major pace up. It's paced down for Sacramento. I don't know if I said that backwards, but still, Sacramento's in a good spot. Toronto's even better spot. Now, defensively, which really also favors Raptors, is Sacramento's 26th and Toronto is 14th. But here's my point in all this, why I'm going back and forth who has the advantage. It's pretty even. And the reason being is it's the first night of a back-to-back for the Raptors. So whenever you have a team on one side or the other in a back-to-back, it really changes things. It affects coaches' rotations, that extra 3 to 4 minutes, which can be all the difference in the world for your DFS score. So I like this game all the way around. Like I say, I think it's advantageous on both sides for multiple reasons. And I think you get some good plays here. De'Aaron Fox at 8-2 and his counterpart Fred VanVleet at 9 are not out of question for me. I think they're both playable commodities. Tyrese Halliburton's, I think, just too cheap at 5.7. Gary Trent Jr. still too cheap at 6K. His price has not come up like I thought it should. So those guys definitely deserve a mention. The other guys I've looked at a bit, Marvin Bagley starting to take on a bigger role under Gentry now that Gentry's took over, and he's only 3.8. So that could be a very nice play. After that, Terrence Davis at 4-1, maybe, but a little more GPP-ish. Not crazy about really the depth of Alex Lynn, Tristan Thompson, Davion Mitchell. Just too many guys siphoning in with minutes, etc. On the Toronto side, 7-6 Barnes is a good play. I mean, he's triple-double kind of guy, so you can consider him. And Pascal Siakam, he's 8.5, which is high, but there are games where he's just really dominant. And the fact that, they get to pace up all the way to the third fastest team, they're going to get extra possessions. I think he's in play. If you want to go super cheap with Boucher and hope he gets 20, 25 minutes at 4.3, I wouldn't argue with you. A lot of centers and some good value here. So, where you can use them at power forward, it may be more advantageous. But love this game. Love to have exposure here right out of the chute. I think you could consider multiple guys here. Fox, Halliburton, Bagley, Van Vliet, Trent, Barnes, and Siakam. You've got just, a really good group to choose from here, and I'll have plenty of exposure. All right, game 2, another 7 p.m. Eastern game. It's the Miami Heat and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland's -5.5. The total is 209.5. 102 flat for Miami, 107.5 for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Miami comes in at 16-11, and Cleveland comes in at 16-12. So not many people, as we approach 30 games played in this season, would have guessed that these two teams would have almost the same record. But Cleveland has been amazing for what product they put out on the floor. They've played great and being coached very well. We have two different diverse looks here. Cleveland, nobody injured at all. And you've got, who's who for the Heat. Adebayo, Butler, Martin, Morris, and Oladipo all out. So good thing is we have we don't have to guess as the time comes, which is half the battle, just knowing who's in and out so you can actually make some sense of what you're trying to put together. Statistically, pace-wise, this isn't the best game. That's why you've only got a 209.5 total. Miami's 23rd, Cleveland's 14th. But the kicker is defensively, these teams are terrific. Miami 7th, Cleveland 3rd. I don't think they've been 3rd since literally the Brad Daugherty, Mark Price, Larry Nance Sr., that squad was really terrific defensively. But it's been a long time since they've had this kind of D. They played decent D in the LeBron years, but never dominant defense like this has been with the two bigs, Mobley and Allen, inside. And speaking of Mobley and Allen, with Bam out and just shuffled the deck there with Tucker and Dedmon playing the big spots, they're both good defenders, but they're not Bam to me at this point of their careers. And so Mobley and Allen always have to be in the discussion when it's a situation like that. Thing is, price-wise, you've gotten to the point here where you really have to make a choice. You've got a price up on Allen of 8.6, and you've got a fair mid-level price for Mobley at 7.1. So in consideration there, I'm not sure how they're going to defend Mobley. They've tried different things in the past. Tucker's just, like a foot shorter, for goodness sakes, it seems like, than Mobley. And, they'll move other guys around on him as well. But I think he gets the biggest mismatch, and at 7.1 is really a good price. He's definitely in consideration for me. Kyle Lowry came out, played great the last go around, and could be right in that same situation. Now, with all the guys, out, Gabe Vincent at 4.2, he made it to his number. Duncan scored a bunch of buckets at 4.3, which he does have to score a bunch of buckets to get to the number, but both of those guys can be considered. Dedmon, if you want to go down to 5K at center, is always playable. And Tyler Hero off the bench is at 7-2 and looking for, one of his giant games very soon. The other possibilities for Cleveland, you have a pretty expensive Darius Garland now at 8-2, but he's really good. But that's pretty hefty price. Markkanen at 5K can step it up. He might be a solid value play himself. And like I say, Mobley at 7-1. That's probably about as far as I'd go with the 9-game slate like this. All right, game 3, Golden State Warriors and Indiana Pacers. You have Golden State on the first night of a back-to-back, so that is a bit of a concern. And it's Golden State by only 4.5, but that 213 total is pretty low for Golden State game, the way they've been playing, but they defend so well. That's where a lot of the issues come. Implied for Golden State is 108.75. Indiana is 104.25. Golden State comes in at 21-5. The Pacers at 12-6. Injuries out for Golden State: Iguodala, Thompson, and Wiseman. And then for Indiana, you've got probable Wanamaker, questionable Justin Holiday, which is important news. And then you have McConnell and Warren already listed as out. So the theme is we are seeing a lot of guys that are already ruled out, which I would rather know that than all the questionable tags going into, that last hour or so on a slate. So it's a little bit more clear. A lot of guys still out, but it is a little bit more clear. Golden State is 5th in the league in pace. Indiana 19th. So pace up for the Pacers. The problem is Golden State is the toughest defensive team in the league. They are number 1. Indiana is 13th. So they have improved a bit each flash here. Looking at this game, the total's not phenomenal. We know Golden State D's it up. It is the first night of a back-to-back, so maybe they use their bench a little bit more. Do you go up to Steph Curry at 11-4? We know he's trying to break that threes record, so he's going to be letting them fly. But if Indiana tries to defend him in any way like Philadelphia did, man, they were pasted on him. Indiana doesn't have a Thibault, but still the doubles and just not making somebody else beat them, that makes it tough for Curry. And Brogdon can defend, and 11-4 is a big number. So don't know if I'll go with Curry, but I'm telling you, on any given slate, he can get the 10-3. So it is always a concern for sure. Jordan Poole at 5'9" is playable for sure. Wiggins at 6'2" has had a few great games now, enough to really be into consideration. Draymond's going to have his hands full inside with Looney. Looney's a good defender, though. I have to give him that. But those guys are going to be, tangled up with Sabonis and Turner. So not sure how much you're going to get from them offensively. So really Poole and Wiggins are the options for me on the Golden State side. On the Indiana side, you've got some value there. Duarte at 4.5, I think, is too cheap. LeVert at 6'5" is probably too cheap as well. Now, Wiggins can defend now. I mean, he didn't early in his career, but his last couple of years at Golden State, he has turned into a very fine defender. So not as high on LeVert as I would be. Sabonis, I get on, he has been terrific at times this year, but with Green and Looney, I think I'm going to shy away from Sabonis and Turner today, just because of the quality of defense and defensive scheme that Steve Kerr runs. Plus, by the way, I don't know if you read it, but congratulations to Steve Kerr. He's the next Basketball USA coach. I thought that was really cool. We always follow the Olympic basketball very closely, and I can't imagine a better choice than Steve Kerr. He assisted Pop on the team that won the gold this year, so it'll be fun to watch him develop this next Olympic unit. So that will be terrific. All right, let's go to game number 4. It is the Milwaukee Bucks and the Boston Celtics. Boston favored by 1 in Boston, 217.5 total, 108.25 for Milwaukee, 109.25 for the Boston Celtics. This is going to be a real barn burner game. There's no doubt about it. Milwaukee comes in at 18-10. Boston has dropped to 1 game below 500 at 13-14. Again, with the theme today, we already know the guys out for Milwaukee, at least to this point. It's DiVincenzo, Lopez, Matthews, and Ogilvy. They're all out. For Boston, we have a tag of probable on Marcus Smart, and we know Fernando and Richardson are out. So looks like Jaylen Brown is back in the building. Whether he has a minutes restriction or not, we'll have to watch. The big news in this one is Milwaukee's on the second night of a back-to-back, so that certainly has an effect. Coach Bud is not one to drive his players into the ground with minutes, so that could affect this game and needs to be considered, and I think is really the reason Boston has favoritism here in Vegas, even though it's only by 1. Pace-wise, Golden State. Milwaukee is 13th, and Boston is 18th. Middle of the road pace, but you have 2 top 10 Ds. That's the issue here. Milwaukee's 8th, Boston's 10th. So strong defenses, but average pace, average total. Definitely can go with a one-off here and there in this game. I'm not going to stack anything up, that's for sure. I think it'll be a hard-fought game. But if you want to pay all the way up for Giannis, he's 11-6, which is a little bit tough. Drew Holiday's fair at 7-7. Middleton remains right dead in the middle, mid-price at 7-4. Bobby Portis at 7-2. On the Boston side, again, Smart probable, but a little dinged up. So I would steer from him. The whole Brown Tatum thing when they're both in, I just don't like playing them because they share that usage. And pricing is tough. Brown 9-1, Tatum 9-4. Horford at 6-6, Robert Williams at 5-1, more GPP-ish for me. Schroeder can pop off, but he's up to 6-3. So not my favorite game. Maybe a one-off on either side, but that's about it for me in that one. I'd like to watch it, but I don't think I want to roster it very much in DFS. So, all right, we go on to game number 5. It's the Houston Rockets and the Atlanta Hawks. This is the big game winner of the day as far as total. It is a nice total. There's not many that approach 230, as we know in this style of NBA. But the problem is we have a double-digit favorite, so you get that big number, but does it stay close enough? Atlanta is an 11.5-point favorite over Houston. It's a 227 total, 107.75 for Houston, 119.25 for Atlanta, which is a big number. You don't see a lot of approaching 120 by any stretch of the imagination. Houston comes in at 8-18. Atlanta comes in at 13-13. Double lucky number 13s there. Injuries, again, straightforward thus far to this point. We know for Houston, their starting backcourt of Green and Porter remained out. House and Wall also out. But they played decent ball without those guys. Atlanta, the 2 scoring wings, Bogdanovich and Hunter, are also out. So we know the status of what's going on here. The exciting part is Houston is the fastest-paced team in the league. So you give a fast-paced team to a guy like Trae Young with John Collins running the floor and, Capella filling the lane for some lobs. Dangerous game that could get out of hand as far as total goes if Atlanta keeps it close enough. So makes perfect sense why this game is so high on the list here for total. The other piece is defensively, these teams are terrible. Houston's 23rd, and Atlanta's a very disappointing 25th. So you've got pace, you've got bad defense, you got guys that can score on the move. I know it doesn't take a team of attorneys to sit down and determine this is the best game on the slate. It just is. Total or no total, it's not sneaky, but I don't see how you don't come out of here with some serious exposure, because you have also the best of both worlds. You have the ability to buy up, and you have the ability to save some money mid-level pricing. You can look at Armani Brooks at 4.8. You can look at Eric Gordon at 5.3. Garrison Matthews at 4.5. Again, Matthews can always be that trap play. Or you can go up to Christian Wood at 9.3. So all those guys in play for me. For Atlanta, I think 10.3 in this matchup might be just a fine one for Trae Young. It's an island game for both of these teams. 10. I haven't paid over the 10 number on Trae. I talked about it the other day. It's just he becomes points and assists, are really the thing, and he needs to not turn it over a bunch really to get to a 60, 65 number. But this is certainly the conducive matchup that could lead to that. So I think you have to consider him. Herter's still in play, even though Reddish is back. Reddish you can discuss. Herter's 5.6, Reddish is 3.3. But with Bogdanovich and Hunter still out, those guys are going to get minutes. Don't want to go to TLC at 3.2. He's just too unpredictable. Not even really GPP for me. The bigs are in play. Collins remains very fair priced at 7.2. He never seems to blow the roof off the stadium, but he gets to his number quite a bit. And Capella at 7.8. This is the kind of game that there's going to be a ton of shots, a ton of opportunities to rebound. I could easily see Capella, with a 15, 16 rebound game here, and he's in play for me. I may go, big and small with some value in like a Brooks and Gordon, and then a pay up for Young and mid-range for Capella. So love this game. Think you have to have exposure here, and it should be a fun one. All right, next one. It is an 8 o'clock game, the only 8 o'clock game on the slate, actually. It's the Philadelphia 76ers and Memphis Grizzlies. Philadelphia is favored by 3. It's a 209.5 total, 106.25 implied for Philly, and a 103.25 implied for the Grizz. As far as where these teams sit coming into this game, Philadelphia is 15-12. Memphis is 16-11. For Philadelphia, Riller and Simmons out. For Memphis, we have a questionable tag on Triple J, so we need to know his situation. Steven Adams is the one that looks like he's going to be out. He's doubtful, but trending towards out. And then Clark, Merrill, Ja Morant, and Zaire Williams all out. So Memphis has just been smashed by the injury bug. What it does is open up some serious value in this game too. So let's go back and look at a couple of things here. We've got Philadelphia 28th in pace, so that's not a fun piece. Memphis is 6th though, so that'll keep the ball moving here. Definite pace up spot for Philadelphia. Defensively, nothing to write home about because Philly's played a lot of games without Embiid. I think Danny Green is really slowing down defensively on the perimeter. They certainly have lost an absolute abundance of perimeter defense with Simmons being out. And, Philadelphia, who was a top 5 defensive team all of last year, is 17th. And again, Memphis 21st. So I think there's going to be points here. I think 209.5 is pretty low, but because there's so many players out, I think that's what they're looking at here. Tyrese Maxey, 6K, very fair. Curry at 5.7, also very playable. Tobias Harris stays at 7.7. The guy that you have to worry about here is Embiid with the bigs out for Memphis. It's going to be hard to throw enough bodies on him, especially if Jackson doesn't play. But Xavier Tillman is going to be the guy that's going to get all the love. He'll be the chalk today, and everybody will be on him, and deservedly so. Tillman's not just a plug-in backup center. He can score the ball. I remember a couple 30 DFS point nights back-to-back when he had that stretch where he had to play a lot of center, and he can score the basketball. The problem is, how is he going to stop Embiid? So, if you're not going to pay up for Trae Young in this last game, maybe you just bite the bullet and pay up for Embiid again. He's had some monster games. And this, with a mismatched interior, this could be a really solid game for him. These two teams are both on an island as well. So a lot of value here to me with Maxey and Curry. And certainly Desmond Bane still at 6'6" has been so tough. I love Dylan Brooks at 6'2". I think he's a great play. And, lock and load the free square of the day, Xavier Tillman at 3-4. So for a 209.5 total, I could come out of here with three guys. I know it sounds crazy, but I like this game. I like the way it sets up. It's a mismatch of sort of skills and size. And I think that can, really create a good situation for DFS points. All right, we've got an 8:30 game, and it's the Charlotte Hornets at the Dallas Mavericks. It is a back-to-back for Dallas. We know that Lucas sat the last game, so we'll talk a little bit about that. Dallas is favored by 4 at home. It's a 219.5 total, so good total. 107.75 implied for Charlotte, 111.75 for the Dallas Mavericks. Charlotte comes in at 15-13. Mavericks come in at 13-13. So they got the double lucky standings right now at 13 wins, 13 losses. Charlotte is second in the league in pace. So talk about pace up game for Dallas. It's craziness. And Dallas is 30th. So not only are they the slowest team in the league, they also are on a back-to-back. And then defensively, though, these teams aren't good. Charlotte can't be any worse. They're the worst. They're 30th. And so that's why we've been stacking up Charlotte games left and right, because second high best pace, worst defense, that just screams DFS. They're a darling of DFS in the games that they play. Dallas is only 16th in defense, so that's, really very subpar to mid-level. Injuries, PJ Washington is questionable, which is important because Ball, McDaniels, Plumlee, and Smith all remain out. Terry Rozier's back, so that's going to help. But, the interior, who's going to get those minutes? Is it going to be Vernon Carey? They have a slew of guys, especially if PJ Washington doesn't play. If PJ does play, we need to just know if there's a minutes restriction or what that scenario is, because he could get solid minutes if he's healthy. For the Mavericks, right now, Doncic has already been ruled out. That ankle's still bothering him. Stein and Brown are both probable. So it's just mainly Luka on the sidelines again, which on a second night of a back-to-back, that spells trouble. Again, Rozier back at 7-2, playable. Kelly Oubre's been ridiculous, but 8-4 starting to get a little bit rough to swallow. Gordon Hayward at 7-5 can be a little hit or miss. I would say, more so GPP-ish. I'm just not feeling 100% there. Miles Bridges, again, he's been solid as a rock. He's 8K. I like him in this game. Not going to go Nick Richards probably, or Vernon Carey, especially not knowing what PJ Washington's status is. The guy that, is super interesting here and that is back is Cody Martin. He's been absolutely out of his mind. But with Rozier back, that stings a little, and we have to determine what that rotation is going to look like. But man, Rozier, Oubre, even Hayward, Bridges, and Martin are all guys I would consider, against Dallas. On the Dallas side, you can feel pretty good about Jalen Brunson, but with Rozier back, that hurts a little. Brunson's only 5'8", but, I love Rozier's D. I don't know how much, Rozier's going to play, if he's going to have any minutes restriction. That's going to depend, whether I consider Rozier or even whether I consider Brunson, because I think Rozier's defense can bother him. Bullock, Finney-Smith, Powell, those three guys are terrible. That's why Dallas is terrible. Sorry, it is what it is. Porzingis, $8K isn't a bad price for him. Somebody's got to score the ball. But I think Charlotte may win this game outright, to be honest with you, and I'm a Mavericks fan. So I just don't like the feel of it without Luka in this matchup. Miles Bridges has played phenomenal defense, blocking shots and getting it done, and he can jump so well. I think he can bother Porzingis, and he's strong too. So, yeah, I don't like this matchup very much. I guess you can consider Tim Hardaway with, the potential of raining a bunch of threes, because it's such a fantastic pace-up game. So I would like to have some exposure on the Dallas side to match the Charlotte side, but I still have to make a decision on Brunson, Porzingis, or Hardaway. All right, we've got 2 games left. 9 p.m. game, Washington and Denver. Denver minus 4.5, 215.5 total, 105.5 implied for Washington, 110 for the Denver Nuggets. Coming into this game, Washington is 15-12. We have another team that's 13-13. So 3 lucky squads tonight, all with 13 wins, 13 losses playing. As far as injuries, Bryant, Hashimura, Kuzma remain out. And then for Denver, we have Will Barton questionable. That's extremely important. We really need to know that before we completely break this game down. Green is unlikely to play. Murray and Rivers remain out. So a couple of question marks there, but we just need a little bit of confirmation to feel better about how that game's going to go. Problem with this game, 215.5 is pretty high considering these two teams are so damn slow. Washington 24th and Denver 26th. So limited possessions, which creates lower DFS point availability. Defensively, though, both teams struggling. Washington is falling like a rock. They had peaked out at 5th early, like 3-4 games into the season. They're already down to 18th. So definitely that defensive wizardry, no pun intended, has really slacked off. The Nuggets are 20th. So that's a big issue for them. They played better defense last year for sure. As far as how this game's looking, you've got a lot of things to consider here. Is the Joker your pay-up guy, and can you afford $12K? Once you hit that 12 number and above, it starts getting a little bit more serious because it definitely affects really having to dig in and find some great value. But 12K is a little bit of a concern there. Can he smash here? I do think he can. I mean, Gafford is a decent defender. Harrell's a little undersized, but it really doesn't matter. Joker's to the point with his game where you can't defend him. I don't care if it's Gobert. I mean, the Joker is going to do his thing, and that's why he's the MVP and has a chance to win it again. So, certainly have to consider him. It creates a little bit of difficulty in structuring the rest of your lineup, but he's got to be a consideration here. Other guys on that side of the ball, Morris at 5'7", Barton if he plays at 6'8", and Gordon at 6'3", but there's risk with all those guys. There's sometimes they just don't play well enough around the Joker. As far as Washington, Spencer Dinwiddie's all the way down to 5'2". That gets my interest. Bradley Beal at 8'4". If Barton plays, Barton defends Beal well. If Barton doesn't play or is limited, then I think you can dial up Bradley here, because this is the kind of game he really could go off on. But we'll see. That's not a sure thing because there's not great pace in this game. After that, Denny Avdia got it done for us last time at 3-5. He was a nice little value play. I do like him a little bit in the starting lineup. I think he's one of those value guys that you can expect to contribute because he can score the ball and he rebounds. He's a big dude, for a small forward position that he plays a lot of the time. But somebody you can consider. I'm still shying away from the Gafford Harrell split. Not, really interested in anybody else off the bench there either. All right, last game. It is a 10:30 all by itself. Starts an hour and a half after every other game. So it'll be the late night sweat game, exposure here, all the catchphrases in DFS. Are you going to have late swap in this game, et cetera, et cetera. So something to consider. We have the Phoenix Suns and the LA Clippers. Phoenix by only 3.5. You have a 212.5 total. 108 implied for Phoenix, 104.5 for the LA Clippers. Phoenix comes in at 21-4. The Clippers are 15-12. Interesting. DeAndre Ayton questionable, so extremely important. Does him sitting make McGee a really strong value play? That's what we need to know. So that would be the pivotal spot you might want to leave, but it'd have to be a 2v2 because you don't want to get stung on price there if you're going to wait for that news for the late game. Booker remains out, Kaminsky, Nader, and Saric as well. For the Clippers, the questionable tag is on Nick Batum. So that's something that we need to watch. More than likely, George isn't going to play here. He's doubtful. And from what I read, he's probably going to be out. We know Kawhi and Preston remain out. So interesting here. I think there's some really good value. You've got two sides of the coin in this game as well. You've got great pace, 4th and 7th. So they get up and down the floor, but great defense. 2 top of the top 4. Phoenix 2nd, Clippers 4th. So definitely not a stack game in that sense, but an exposure game with the pace and some of these main guys that are out. Like I say, if Ayton's out, I think McGee is playable. I think that, you have a chance here with Booker out still to go to Chris Paul at 8-3. Mikal Bridges at 5-4 is going to pick up some of that slack. Jay Crowder now gets into play if Ayton is out at 4-5. And you can consider Cam Johnson at 4-6 off the bench as well. So definitely some playable guys on that side of the ball. And then the same likewise for the Clippers. Jackson is sub 6K at 5'9", which puts him directly in play. Terrence Mann at 4-4, Marcus Morris at 4-6, both terrific value plays there. I could see myself going to either one or both of those guys. We don't know if Batum's in. If he's not, it elevates guys like Luke Kennard and Brandon Boston, who had his breakout surreal game where he could not miss a shot, even when he wasn't looking at the basket. So guys that you can consider. Boston is the dead man. Bledsoe's at 4K, not as crazy about him, but certainly some terrific value here. I think that's going to be really the theme of this last game with guys like Bridges, Crowder, Mann, Morris, and those kind of folks, because that really is going to make it work. And if you do enough of that, you could get up to a Joker and one of the other pay-up guys. That it's possible you can go Joker, Trae Young. That becomes into play. Stuff like that. So a lot of options here, a lot of different strategic builds. I could see stars and scrubs. I can see 1 star with a lot of medium build and 1 or 2 super great value plays. Because the one thing that's tough is following all this news, all these changes, all these injuries, all these guys sitting out. But the great thing is it opens up a lot of value and allows a lot of different roster construction. So a 9-game slate with all that volatility plays right into our hands here at Coach Talk. This is the kind of slate that we crush. And, when it's a 3-4 game slate, everybody's on the same value guy or two. Everybody's paying up for the same superstar. It's very boring. It's almost like playing a showdown slate for me. I don't enjoy those. They're not challenging for me. Not that I win them all. I wish I did, or I just play them. It's just that it's figuring it out. When you already have 4 or 5 of your spots, just no brainers, and you only have to build, 2-3 spots. It's just not the same. These kind of slates where you can go multiple different directions, you just have, it gives you the opportunity to set yourself apart. So that's what we do at Coach Talk. We talk a lot about it every day. We talk about bankroll management, contest selection. Those two pieces are more important than building your lineup. And I'll argue that with anybody. So all of those fall in line together. You can sustainably win long-term in DFS. So if you're tired of reloading or trying to throw things into an optimizer and play that optimal the same as, 1,000 other people, and you want to hand build, you want to look at things from a different perspective, we're very unique in that manner. We hand build all our lineups. Not that we don't use the analytics and the optimizers, we do, but when it comes down to it, we believe that the average DFS player is going to build 1 or 2 lineups and play in specific contests. We recommend a lot of cash lineups where you can double up or 50-50s or head-to-head so that you can build a bankroll and then play some single entry GPPs where you can start, really cashing. And the problem is a lot of people want to approach it, and I always see it, especially during the holiday time. Some people have some off time, they're going to take some shots, and they'll load $50 and they'll play these multi-entry tournaments where all the sharks out there that are just using the optimizers and crunching 150 lineups, and boom, you're 1 against 150 against pros. Good luck with that. I mean, I tell people, go play the Powerball. It's about the same odds. So if you want to really pick the right contest, have the right lineup builds, we are the place to go. It's dfscoachtalk.com to become a member. If you're watching this on YouTube on the way out, please, a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, give us a comment or question. That combination really helps us. Listen up later today or tonight for our big announcement on the 12 Days of Christmas giveaway. We're going to have some fantastic opportunities for people. And we're also going to have a drawing for a $50 ticket into a contest on the Christmas Day slate. So that will be given to a member of our Coach Talk team or family. So, all right, that is it, everyone. Appreciate you listening in on this Monday. Hope this really helps you build some winning lineups. Tomorrow, Tuesday the 14th, it's a 4-game slate. Mr. Andrew Hansen will be here for the podcast and supplying lineups. So definitely tune in for that. We've got an NFL podcast up for this Monday game tonight, so please check that one out. And then come on in, join us. You'll be in Discord tonight. Get all of our NBA plays, all of our NFL plays, and then we'll go from there. All right. Thank you very much again for listening in. Have a fantastic Monday, and let's start off the week with some big wins, and then we'll be back again tomorrow when we look to crush it in DFS.